I want to thank Jennifer and Calvin. I think we have, hopefully it will be a very interesting conversation. 3 areas, very interrelated, but quite different in many ways. We'll tackle commerce overall, but I think it's interesting in the space of wellness, what that means, right? And how do you ultimately deliver on the brand purpose, but still ultimately have to drive sales and transactions. So what I always like to do in having a discussion is kind of set the stage a little bit, right? So we kind of frame it for not just for us, but for you guys as well, as you're thinking about what might interest you, and ultimately, so hopefully some questions at the end. So I'm gonna set the stage a little bit. So commerce has become pervasive. Consumers can buy whatever they want, wherever and however they want. We're in the era of what we call at Night Market the pervasive store. Right, so think about if you have kids, or it's like my kids will buy anything, anywhere, at any given time. They don't really care, right? I remember about a year ago, my kids were on. First time I ever let them be on TikTok. I never let them be on TikTok again, and then they bought something that they'd never heard of in like 10 seconds. and I told them, so how did you become like I tried to explain to them what the marketing funnel was, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Right? So that's the world that we live in. That's the pervasive store, right? Ultimately, right? And it will mean something for you guys, because ultimately you guys are in an omni-channel, said differently, pervasiveness, right? So it's branding, marketing, sales, and fulfillment all rolled up and all aimed at driving commerce. It's one massive multi-dimensional playground where brand shoppers and retailers are all participating, right? Sounds like a Hunger Games in many ways, right? It's like free-for-all.
TikTok shop is the Hunger Games.
Well, it's true. Right? There you go, right, Jennifer, right? So Olly, health and wellness, Necessaire, wellness, personal care, right? Both focus on direct-to-consumer and retailers. So everywhere and anywhere at any given time, a shopper can decide to purchase. Okay. So the first question, which is where the wellness aspect of this comes in, and ultimately how do you deliver on the power of commerce but still stay true who you are, right? Without really compromising the purpose and the mission, but at the same time you have to drive sales. So balancing company mission and what I call margin, so mission and margin, right? In marketing requires a strategic approach that aligns core values to financial objectives, ensuring revenue initiative align with brand purpose and don't compromise integrity. So, Calvin, we'll start with you. How do you balance mission and revenue in your marketing and comms, particularly in retail and commerce media, ensuring that financial success, right, ultimately complements and strengthens your company's values and goals rather than undermining them?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for us, our brand is founded on 2 pillars: care for your body, care for your planet, and really we put equal strength in terms of how we develop products, how we think about the brand, how we market the brand. We do put different emphasis on what we lead with in terms of marketing, and I think that goes back to just how we think about overall positioning of the brand, the responsibility, sustainability nature of the company is integral. It's an important part with everything we're doing, but we don't like to think about it as the primary reason people are coming into the brand, and that's just what we've seen within the landscape, where there's been a backlash against B Corp certification, greenwashing. So not only is it where we're kind of mitigating and de-risking any backlash there, but also we want people to come in because of the brand, because of the product efficacy, and then once they get there, they realize that there's this whole responsibility aspect of the brand that's a retention lever, it's a loyalty lever, and that's really how we kind of view our marketing funnel along with that. So that's how we position the brand. It's also important because we have a strategic retailer such as Sephora that their clean beauty classification, their regulations are super strict. It's constantly evolving, so it's also helping push us to continually be evolving our standards and our practice for the consumer and what we believe in. But yeah, that I think, in short, that's how we kind of think about our marketing funnel. And at the end of the day, it does allow us, we are a premium brand, we are a prestige brand, and having the sustainability aspect does allow us to be priced accordingly and be positioned as that premium brand, and that at least in the consumer's eyes.
So Jennifer, before I go to you, so product, brand drives somebody through acquisition. Mission keeps them.
Correct. That's how we view it. Correct.
Okay, awesome. Jennifer, awesome.
It actually took us a while to figure out what our social mission was. I'm going to be really honest. We were founded in 2015. We were acquired by Unilever in 2019. And I think we just really established it in the last couple of years. So there's hope. If you don't have this, it's fine. We tried a few things, and some of the things felt like they connected and some of them didn't. And some of them connected with us as employees, and some of it didn't connect with customers. So we're now in a place where our social mission is mental health. We're a wellness company. We're all about your physical health. But one of the things we say all the time at Olly is like, you can't be well unless you can be well inside and outside. So that's really been the place where we've invested that social mission money and that social mission attention. And it was like definitely secondary to our business. It was something that I said, I think that social mission is a luxury that you get to have if you're already running a good business. If you are not running a good business, you do not get to do anything good for the world. So that, I think, is definitely one of those things you have to establish before you get too crazy. But for us, it really is. It's kind of a both and. This is a very specific thing, but one of the biggest issues we had as we started really kind of owning the social mission message, this is very specific. When we send emails, when anybody sends emails, you look at all the stats of the emails, right? Open rate, click rate, conversion rate. Our email manager didn't want to send message emails because they didn't get conversion rates. They didn't get conversion. So there was even like why would we want to talk about that when we could send something that sells something? Yeah. So that's like an internal culture that you kind of have to shape a little bit too. And so, I mean, we pretty much just created a different measurement for content emails. Like, it's different. But it took a little while to get there, where it was really just like, well, we sell. And, we definitely do more than sell.
Yeah. It's, I chose the word mission and margin as I was thinking about this. I remembered a few years back, 4 years back, I was in a room with a CMO and brand purpose and mission. CFO says, no margin, no mission.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's pretty much,
true.
and then CMO had no rebuttal to that, right? And the CFO says, when you can give me margin, I will give you the permission to do a mission.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why that this notion, and I think this was an important one. Particularly, mission is probably important for every brand, but for brands like theirs, it means something more, right? Because you're making a promise about products that you ultimately putting in your body or on your body, which is the most sacred thing, right? Or you're putting in your kids' bodies or your significant other's bodies, right? Whatever the case may be, right? But still has to drive business, right? So you're to what Calvin, you said, like, I still got to move the business, and then I can allow the mission to ultimately keep people coming back to me as a loyalty factor, right? And maybe that creates more of an advocacy, right? So they will share the mission. I don't have to spend money to do that. All right, awesome. Okay, second question. Knowing that some of your customers love shopping in stores, prefer online, favor Amazon, some are all about social gaming, immersive, right? Again, pervasiveness, right? How do you architect, build, orchestrate personalized, frictionless, cohesive commerce experiences that engage consumers effectively across both digital and physical, click to brick, right? Converting shoppers to buyers. Jennifer, let's start with you.
Sure, yes. We're very much built like a CPG brand. 80% of our revenue still comes from brick and mortar. So that's who we are. We are Target, we are Walmart. And so that's kind of who we've always been. And that has driven the business for many, many years. The Amazon business is growing in like triple digits. So there's definitely this feeling of like digital growing at a rate that brick and mortar business is not growing. Especially, you see the news of Target's earnings and all of the foot traffic, all of that stuff, Amazon's business is just booming. So this is a year, the past couple of years, where we really tried to connect the dots between all of those things. In the digital space, you could measure anything. It's great. It's easy. You can put money in, you see what money comes out. It's super easy. When you're trying to understand customer churn, like, where'd that customer go? They could be shopping at Walmart. There's literally no way you'll ever know. And that's, I think, one of the challenges for us. Like, is that channel shift? Is it churn? I don't know. But it's very typical, like it's very difficult to navigate, especially when you do, like we do subscriptions for products, and it's really hard to understand that full customer path. One of the things we're doing this year that I'm super excited about is that we're actually adding receipt scanning to our loyalty program. So we have a D2C loyalty program, like totally your cookie cutter, you earn points if you spend money, kind of, there's nothing really fascinating about it at all. But what we're going to be able to do is have customers who shop in store scan their receipts and earn points in the digital space as well. We do not care about those points. We do not care about discounts. It's like 100% a data grab. Like we just want to understand where customers go and what they do and also what they buy in addition to our products. Like there's so much data there. So to be able to take that and kind of digitize all of that stuff, store it in your CDP, like that's amazing. Yeah. The one-to-one match is like the thing we've been working towards for like 2 years. And we're finally just about there.
No, that's smart. And Calvin, before I come to you, question for you is, Amazon's big, but Amazon has a problem, probably a significant problem when you look at Amazon, is they drive massive halo. They just can't prove it, right? So when you look at those people that are in a Walmart store looking at your product and says, yeah, I want to go to Amazon and buy it off of Amazon, what do you do?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's a thing that it is a halo effect. There are things in this business you're never going to be able to measure, and I think that's one of them. Okay. I mean, Amazon. Interestingly enough, our Amazon business and our D2C business only have about a 4% crossover in customers. So we have very different customers that shop in different channels. So we kind of understand that. So we can see some of the halo effect there because we know, like, there's a different demographic for the D2C store. There's a different, for Amazon. So it's one of those things I think it's like upper funnel marketing. Like you just have to accept that it works. You got to accept that digital out of home does something. Like you just need to get over it. But yeah, that halo effect is always going to be there, and it's always going to be something that you have to argue about internally. And
then how do you maintain a cohesive experience for those browsers that become shoppers and the shoppers that becomes buyers when you really can't really control the experience, right, that they might see in Walmart versus Target versus Amazon, as much as you would like to, right? So because you're ultimately trying to deliver on the promise of the brand, right? But you don't have. So how do you mitigate those? Well,
risks? One of the things that's really interesting and terrible about the supplement space is that it's really highly regulated. So from a legal perspective, we have to do that. So I mean, we're monitored by the FDA and the FTC, and everything we put out there, any claim we put out there, has to be validated by our QA team. So that is a lot right there, just the regulatory aspects of it for us. We're never going to have a message that a product does a different thing in a different channel. If we do, we're in real trouble. So I would say, like, just cleaning the data up that you distribute. You have to do it like make sure that the claims you're showing in Walmart are the same ones you're showing on Amazon. We have to do that. There's not really a choice.
Yep. Okay. Calvin, to you.
Well, just to continue, or piggybacking off of that, for us, personal care, we do have hair care. Hair care is the one that we are needing to be much more sensitive and careful with any claims around hair growth, anything related to that. So that's one, from a legal perspective, we need to be consistent. But just in general, it's tough. It's tough because there are different specs, there are different requirements. An Amazon detail page is very different than a Sephora detail page versus a DTC. So I think it's actually something that we're going through an audit with our creative team to look at what is out in the ecosystem right now, and conversely, or on the flip side, working to create a uniform language that we're carrying through across all retailers that matches the spec. So it's a challenge for any brand, and especially for a brand like us that we are still an emerging brand. We're growing, we're evolving how we're talking about the product. We're also expanding into categories. So it's a challenge, but I think now that we have identified it as a challenge, now we can start to work to actually correct that. So, and the other piece for us that's really top of mind is we're digitally native. We started DTC, so digital is our focus, and digital, again, very easy or more easily updated quickly, instead of Sephora, where we have a gondola, which is our shelf display in store. That's a 6-month lead time. So anything we put on there, it's a while. I mean, I know, Jennifer, the same thing.
I was just thinking about what we do at back to school. It's exactly the same. You're just like, I can't believe we're already doing this.
and so that poses a new challenge for us. So we're also thinking about, what products are we leading with on the top shelf? What is that hero messaging that we have in just this one shelf space in Sephora? That's our one single touch point for that consumer in the store. So it's a new challenge. That's obviously something that we're spending a lot of time and money trying to figure out, but kind of goes back to my earlier point where what's that balance between our social mission, the responsibility, social sustainability side, and the efficacy side. But then you also have Sephora, which is, current trend is more leaning into scent and fragrance. So you've got now almost three key messages that you've got to really hit home in a 3x3 space in store. So it is a challenge that we don't have a solution for yet. But it's,
so when I think you made an interesting point. I mean, on your site you control it's yours, right? Experience, what they say, what you show, how frequently. But then people go to Sephora, right? And the expectation of Sephora, the expectation on the other retailers that you have, which are all different retailers, right? You lose some control, right? And you can't really control what people think when they walk into the store of Sephora. So knowing that you want a consistent experience. So what levers can you pull?
Yeah. So the gondola, as I mentioned, so how we're designing our shelf display, but then the other big piece that we've really focused on over the last year was our field team. So having a field team, physical presence that's going into stores, that's speaking to the BAs, so educating them about our products, about the brand, about our mission, both so that they can speak to it with the same tone, the same language that we obviously would speak about it, but also just to keep us top of mind that when consumers are coming in with a specific need state, Necessaire is top of mind for the BAs, and they understand how that meets the consumer needs. So it's another expense. That's, again, a new muscle for us, but it is a necessary one, especially in the skincare, personal care space, because, to your point earlier, it is so personal, it is so individual, such an individual experience with everybody's skincare journey and personal care journey that you need to really educate the people that are speaking to that to make sure that it's matching our brand tone and voice.
A follow-up question, because when Jennifer mentioned the not having overlap, that surprised me a little bit, because I generally don't hear that. I hear quite the opposite of that, right? Which creates very much friction between a DTC and a because who gets. So what happens when you have competing forces, right? Generally, something has to cannibalize somebody. Right? In your case, it's very unique and rare. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think we're very much of the opinion that the consumer is going to shop where they're going to shop ultimately. So we're not going to try and architect or direct a customer to shop one place or the other. So I don't have the same data set yet. I think it's a good question for us to explore. But for us, the main purpose for, I guess, going into the channels, we have clear purposes for each channel. So DTC, we really do feel is a loyalty channel. Okay. It is the brand loyalists, it's the brand advocates. So they get first access typically to our new products. That's where we really go deep on our assortment. Amazon, of course, is the convenience factor. So those are hero products, replenishable, subscribe and save. And then Sephora, more leaning into treatment and scent. That has really been the biggest trend in Sephora. So that's where we really lean into our scent focus and our scent exclusives. So along with that, we do have timed exclusives with Sephora because there is that retail partner aspect of it where they've been great partners and also needing to generate newness and excitement with their audience.
So for you, is the DTC more loyalty, or is it both?
Absolutely. I mean, you can buy our sleep gummies literally anywhere. So if somebody's shopping on our website, they are really committed to the brand.
Okay.
If they subscribe on the website, they are like top tier.
Yeah.
So you can tell. I mean, it's never going to be a gigantic business. And I think that's something that's hard to explain internally. Like, there is no unlimited growth for D2C. Like it has a limit because we are so omni-channel, and that's okay. That's normal, and that's how it works. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
Okay. All right. Third question. I want to talk about the combined power of content and commerce, right? Which I think is critically important to companies like yours, right? So some calling it the new power duo, right? If you just Google, you'll see this notion of what content means. We're actually talking with some people, and they talk about everything as content should be shoppable, or every piece of content should have a shopping component to it. So providing the right content to your customers at the right point in the process is a big job, especially when you consider the multitude of different devices, marketing channels that they interact with throughout the day, right? So how are you integrating consumable product content, said differently, storytelling, with commerce to achieve the right personalization and contextualization to attract, entertain, educate, enhance shopping experiences, and ultimately persuade those shoppers to purchase your product? Right?
From our perspective, I think that's where it's an interesting dynamic that, especially in the beauty personal care space, that influencer UGC is still so prevalent and such a major part of any brand presence, brand marketing strategy. We've been heavily reliant on influencer as a key marketing channel since we were founded 6 years ago. But in a way, it puts your storytelling in the hands of an outside factor, a third party. So that's something that we've had to be very careful with, obviously, about partnerships, who we're working with, and then also going down to the brief and making sure that we're very specific about how we're briefing these creators that are ultimately our brand advocates and working and telling our story. We are not a brand that, like some others that have a very visible founder that's speaking about the brand, telling their brand story, the founding story. So in lieu of that, we've had to go more, again, on the efficacy side. So I think it's been powerful about having diverse messages and treatments, so different audiences. So we'll have again, going to our treatment SKUs, we'll have maybe a Gen X creator speaking about our body retinol. We'll have a Gen Z creator talking about our deodorant and how great it smells. So also creating the content and the audience of those creators and speaking to the different consumers that we're actively selling to. So that's how we've approached it, and really kind of leaning into the creator space and letting them tell the authentic efficacy story that we can trust, and I think we've seen this firsthand. We can trust, whether it be Meta or TikTok algorithms, to serve that content to the right audience. Then ultimately,
are you have you, or if so, are you doing it more? Are you integrating commerce into content directly?
Directly, at least, we've started to test into it with TikTok Shop. So that's the first avenue that we've really tested into, shoppable commerce. We haven't really delved into the live experience just yet. We'll be testing that out for the first time in June, actually. But to date, we haven't really pursued that directly.
And if you can say it, how did the TikTok Shop work?
To date, not great. It's been a
and why do you think so? To finish it.
Yeah,
because it's important, right? Yeah. So why do you think it wasn't?
I think from a brand's perspective, it's something that the general rule of thumb or best practice that you need to rely on affiliates to drive your TikTok Shop business. And for the brands that I've heard that have had success with TikTok Shop, I think there's been we'll call it scary, moments from a brand equity perspective in terms of what affiliates are talking about, the claims they're making. So it does put the brand at risk. As much as it can drive volume, there's more chance for brand erosion, or that's the concern from the brand.
Which impacts the purpose and the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
Then you have a hard time convincing people that you stand for that mission and purpose.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Jennifer, what about you?
Very similar experience. It's, again, with claims for us, even our content creators and our influencers, if they make claims about a product in a video that are not correct, we are liable. So that is one of the things, like briefing in, this is really important, or like, absolutely do not say this. You have to get really, really specific with creators. One of the things I think that's really interesting is that I feel like businesses and brands for years have been like, oh, we got to sell to Gen Z. They're different. They're mission-based. They care about all these things. And that's going to really matter. So, it's one reason to invest in social mission. But what I see happening is like the Shein and Temu effect. And that's kind of absolutely the opposite of what I think we've all been strategizing around for the last 5 years. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah. Last question. So we're in 2025. Retail has now become commerce, right? Retail's media's probably hit a cap, and that's where you're seeing the Amazons and the Walmarts of the world saying we're running out of space, right? So we have to go outside of that our worlds. So if you had a wish in 2025, right? You got people in this room, and hopefully we're recording it. If you had a wish, right, and says in commerce, I would love to do this, staying true to who you are. Like, what would that be, Jennifer? If you had a wish, like, I would love to be able to do this because it would help me do this better.
I really wish that Walmart and Target would give us customer data.
It's fair.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not to keep hitting that home, but yeah, I think as a digitally native brand, it's been a challenge when we have so much of our business now in a retail channel like Sephora. So having unified customer data across all retail outlets so that we can track uniformly would be nice. And then I think the flip side would also be not just Necessaire, but I think one experience that I've had with Amazon is controlling the fulfillment experience at other retail partners. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've had a sustainable brand where we've designed the packaging to reduce waste, and then I've done a test order only to Amazon have 8 poly bags thrown in for spacing. So yeah, in a giant box. So yes.
Okay. Questions? Suraj.
So question for you, Jennifer. You were very confident when you said there is going to be a limit to how far your DTC is going to grow. And you hit the 20% mark in the channel, right? Many of us who operate, work in DTC brands and so forth, were watching Nike very closely over the years. We were seeing how far they could really push. And they hit 43%. That was it. And after that, a whole bunch of things fell apart, right? Like they really pushed it, right? So one can see that there is rationale and reasoning behind your logic, how you arrive. The question is then, the role of DTC, the way you describe it, number one, different audience, therefore indirect audience. 2, more loyal. Could we also assume that it is also probably the most profitable customer set?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we keep so much margin when you buy it directly from us. That's that's absolutely true. One of the things you don't see a lot are CPG brands that do D2C, and that's why. This is why.
They don't do it because?
Because there's a limit to how much it can grow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that point is, I was having, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and we're at, I think, another conference, and we were talking about DTC, and the people that we were talking to were healthcare, life sciences, and pharma, and probably the best personification of why to pursue a DTC. And then they asked the question, so why do more CPGs pursue DTC? And I said, who's going to buy a can of Coke online? From Coke.
I mean, look at Liquid Death. I think that's such a great example of a company that's yet to turn a profit,
That's right.
but yet is so cool and everybody loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're shipping water over from Europe
That's right.
in cans.
Yeah, which is great.
It does differ by category too.
Yep.
Like the ceiling differs, so that's why beauty obviously a little bit heavier penetrated. Or you look at pet food, where you have brands like Parmer's Dog that are billion-dollar brands and doing DTC only. So it differs by category. But there is ultimately a ceiling.
Yeah, but consumers will go and buy dog food,
Right,
But
exactly.
nobody's going to buy a 6-pack of can of Coke, right, or Pepsi, right? But they're going to go to Target, Walmart, or Instacart, or anybody else because they're going to buy chips and they're going to buy, right? To your point, adjacency, right? What else are they buying? How else are they buying, right? Which I think is really smart to get to like that. That was a whole precipice of Circana, how they did it, right? Which was smart. Next question, in the front.
So, I mean, I'm really passionate about social enterprise in general, so I might have a bias. So, with that said, the books I've read are almost the opposite. They say no mission, no margin. And like, the future of business is purpose. And so, like, I'm grateful that you're out with this. And I feel like we're in this transition time. It's just, what there's this kind of research project about these things called firms of inheritance. So and that beats like the S&P 500 over decades. So brands that have known stated missions just fare better, do better, sell more. So I think some of it could be aided by the stories fact that, people who align with those missions need to be more vocal about why they made their purchase. So, I'm also biased because I come with the platform. But all that being said, it's beautiful to hear your evolution around social mission, and I just implore you to keep it up. But I'll also look at every angle and see that being good probably is good business.
Who else?
To add on to what Raj was saying, so if there's a sky no limit, do you find, this is for both of you, do you find value in the idea of media to support DTC? Or is it more going into the
We do and don't. I would say we have a lot of our paid budget is for D2C. But again, the halo effect is a big thing. We work with some partners that their job is to drive customers into stores. Like we work with InMarket, and they're great. They do that. I think it's a tough one that you have to kind of work through. And a lot of it is you just have to believe in the halo effect. But at the same time, you can use a tool like something like Micmac where a customer can choose where they want to go shop online. And in those cases, I don't think that we're losing customers to Walmart.com and Target.com. They're not there. They're in the store. They're not going to Target's website. It's not great. I hope there's nobody from Target here, but it's not great. So, it's not a better experience than what we have. No. Absolutely not. So in that case, it's just, I think you just have to kind of move it around. You have to be a little flexible with what you're spending and where you're spending it.
Last question. All right. Thank you very much. Awesome. Thank you.